Robinson said, son, he said, that ain't going to happen. I'm going to get them in my backyard now. They scheduled to come here. We're going to play in my backyard. Well, they still got beat, but they didn't get beat as bad,
Right. It's close. It's
at
very close.
Shreveport. So there's been, I've played games in Arrowhead Stadium and the Astrodome, Reliance Stadium. I played a classic game in Memorial Stadium at UT campus when they told us, y'all ain't gonna play no game. And here's some guy, and Delois Doss was the athletic director, and he went over to his desk and he put his hand on my shoulder and started squeezing it. In other words, that's telling me, son, just cool out and we'll get it worked out. And it was with Prairie View and Bishop College. Well, it was Bishop College home game, and we convinced them to let's move it to Austin, but they didn't have to deal with Bishop because they was a private school. So Prairie View, Brutus Jackson said, we'll take the game, and that'd be our home game. So they had to deal with him because he's a state-supported school. So those older white guys said, well, I guess we're going to be dealing with you anyway. And, and we did a game there. We were great in that stadium. So, it's the way to do these games and put them together. And Eddie Robinson was the man of gambling because he knew what he had. These guys nowadays, Eddie Robinson grew up at Grambling. Like he said, well, my president, he's the president, but I'm the head football coach, and I coach the president. So, so I'm gonna do it the way we gotta do it. And that's what we did. We do nothing but make money.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Watts. One of the schools that I think is very intriguing, I had a chance to go to their homecoming this past year, and that's Southern. Have you ever done the classic with Southern? Because they have a rabid fan base, and it seems like they would go anywhere and support their team. Have you thought about having those guys? Like the one place that comes to mind is if you could get Southern in Dallas, I don't know what time of year, against what opponent, but that would seem like that would be a sensational game.
We did that one year. We did Southern and Prairie View, and I came back and did Grambling and Prairie View. We did them both the same year. Yeah. And Grambling still outdrew Southern, and I said never would do that again.
Rocky, Southern and Texas Southern did it back-to-back years too, and it wasn't very successful. Just maybe a year or two ago, Al?
And see, the myth is that everybody says Southern traveled a lot of people. That was years ago, not today. And if it's marketed right, Florida A&M, everybody tell me, man, you go get Florida A&M, you're going to pack the stadium,
But what's the event around the game? See, here again, Mr. Watts, it's a spectacle that you've created around the game. Was a spectacle created around the Southern game?
It probably was not built the way we do it, but just the fact of having those two schools should have drew more people than what it drew. And you got to look at it this way. At Grambling, they're going to go to homecoming, they're going to go to the Bayou Classic, and hopefully they come into Dallas. They're not coming to no more than 3 games, And I would think Southern, they do better at home because of the city they in, and a lot of those people, you're in a pretty good sized city. Grambling is the city. So it ain't nobody in that city. When summertime come, you got very few people that's in that city, until the kids come back on campus. So now it's not the same. Prairie View's in a rural town, but they close to Houston. So Texas Southern should be like a Southern. They should be drawing just as well, but it's been bad blood. Things happen, and for whatever reasons, uh, you know, they're not a good draw.
I wanted to share with our audience too, Al, that when I was the head coach at Texas Southern, one of the things that me and Al was getting together on, and he actually took our team up to Tyler Rose to play Texas College, which if we'd have brought Texas College to Houston, we wouldn't have had nobody. But when we went up there, we had over 15,000 people come to the game. And then I told Al, I said, Al, I don't want you to handle those kind of. I want you to handle my season. I guess that's when Al, you shared about, excuse me, shared with me about how you and Eddie Robinson started. Because I think just what you just said about Texas Southern, I think it should be a draw. You talking about the fourth largest city in the state, I mean in the nation, and all you asking for is 0.5%. You know, that's 40,000 people to come to the game, or even less than that. But we don't draw, you know. So that was one of the things.
Well, but you got to remember now, Johnnie Cole was a catch. See, people don't think like I think. And when Johnnie Cole came and we were doing that game, I put a commercial together, and I had that Rick James in there, cold-blooded. People hated that.
Yeah, you helped me get fired.
Johnnie Cole, but so bad. I had Johnnie Cole. He's cold-blooded in music play. You gotta hype him up. Yeah. You know, everybody wanted to come. Either they were supportive of him or they didn't like it and they wanted him to lose. It wasn't no in between. You know, and we knew that. But I knew what Johnnie Cole meant in Houston, so we made it work. You know, it's ways to put just little things in the commercial. I design my own commercials. I sit there and I think about it before it's written, and I would go to Atlanta, and instead of me just sending the spot off to somebody, I rent the studio in Atlanta, and I spend 2 and 3 days in the studio, and I'd have to cut different commercials because I switch them out to lead up to the game.
Did you see the opening one on our show?
Yeah, let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Everybody asked us and said, what did you pay that man to do that? It wasn't like, oh man, that was a genius. That was great. Everybody said, what did you pay Michael Buffett to do that? How much did you pay him? We never answered the question. But
we always pocket watching.
And Rocky, tell me who Michael Buffett is. This cat is large.
Everybody knows who Michael Buffer is. I think Michael Buffer has announced some of the biggest fights for the last 25, 30 years. I definitely want to talk to Al about, you know, I know he's done a lot in the promoting business, but as a promoter, there are some legends. There's some legendary black promoters. When you talk about Al Heyman and, you know, my man Don King, who would you put on the Mount Rushmore of black promoters? You know, I know who Al Heyman is. Many people may not. Everybody knows Don King, yourself. Did you have a mentor in the business? And if you did, share that with us. And then who would you put on a Mount Rushmore of black promoters? It doesn't have to be sports promoters, but just promoters in general.
That's a hard question to answer because Al Heyman, I think everybody you name, Al Heyman, a Don King, or me, and whoever's out there, we all had something different. Al Heyman was a smart guy. He's probably one of the smartest promoters of all, and he was young when he came in the business. And then he was smart to where he got the money from the Budweisers and all those people to come up with the dollars.
The Superfest, huh?
Yeah, the Superfest, and he made it work. So he be in there. He done moved out of the concert business. He's in the boxing game, you know. So, and everybody know what kind of money is in the boxing game. Well, the Don King, you know, he was just a boxing promoter. He wasn't a concert, and even though he might have added a concert on, but even today, I wouldn't do a concert with the games that I do because why would I take a risk? I'm gonna make money on the game, so why am I gonna take a risk with a Fantasia or Frankie Beverly? I did one year before the Dallas game. I know I had a winner. I had Frankie Beverly and I had Charlie Wilson and the Gap Band and they heyday, and I lost money on that show. You know,
Mm.
the Kings of Comedy was created at the Dallas game, and the agencies, the white agencies, they always said comedy belongs in a small building. It's intimate, you know. And I said, fellas, you know, just sell me an act. I'm taking the gamble. Well, we don't want our act to play in no 20,000 seater. We were playing them in an outdoor amphitheater. That's not gonna work. And we end up, I had Steve Harvey because he was living in Dallas. I end up in after I convinced and fought to convince Bernie Mac guy to be on the show, you know, and Bernie Mac probably just told him, said, look, I'm gonna do this. You know, I had Bernie Mac, I had Bill Bellamy, I had I think J. Anthony Brown, and it seemed like I had someone else on that. And we did
It
18,000
wasn't an
people.
earthquake, was it?
No, it wasn't earthquake. Nah,
Mhm.
I know it was Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac, Bill Bellamy, and J. Anthony Brown. Might just been them four.
Not
And
DC Curry or anybody like that. Huh?
nah, nah, nah. And that did it. And then Walter Latham came along and picked it up, the idea, and I guess that after they seen that, they didn't want to deal with me no more because I did everything almost cussing them out. That y'all don't know what y'all doing, y'all don't know black people, and you gonna tell me what black people where they gonna go? I've been black all my life, so I know what black people. I think I know, not always, but unless something happened, I got some tough shows out there right now. And with the economy being the way it is, with what Trump's doing, they're not doing as well as they should be. But it's just that time of the year. I've been doing those Mother's Day shows for 11 years straight and been successful with them. So and I do 10 shows in 3 days. Now you figure that out.
Yeah.
And I don't play, I play Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Georgia, Fayetteville, Richmond, Virginia, Salisbury, Maryland. You know, so I play, you know, different cities and Columbus, Ohio, you know. So it's
You also are involved with the NFL as well in the
well, and that's because of Doug Williams and Shaq Harris. When they ended up getting a deal with the Hall of Fame to make the HBCU a room in there being the museum. That's what they said, man, we done been there everywhere, been to Atlanta, we've been here, we've been in little closets and when the Hall of Fame said, okay, we'll move y'all in here. And then Doug said, well, we need a classic football game to go with it. They said, we need a guy named Al Wash. Well, what they did, they didn't fly to me. I mean, I didn't fly to them. They flew to me to see the game in Dallas. And they sat right there in the room with me to see how I was running the game. I telling them, okay, let's kick off. You know, get that man off the field and come on, referee, let's move the game. Because one thing I want to be is I want to be on time. I hate them using the term this is CP thing.
that's
Ain't
our
no
time guy
reason
Campbell.
you know, ain't no reason why we can't be on time. And that's what we did, you know. So they hired me. I did I did a 3-year contract with them. And even today, I still book the talent for them, and I'm still a consultant for them. And I do everything that I need to do to help that game work out. Now, 2 schools have picked it up. Not two SWAC schools, 2 conferences. I can't remember. I think it's CIA, Johnny might know, is 2 conferences that picked it up, and they took it and said, we'll give you a game every year to play in this game. So now I don't have to go out there and try to pick the teams no more. So, it made it easier for them and easier for me, and all I do is I book talent. We got Dietrich Haddon, at the doing the. They always want gospel. I had Dietrich Haddon this year coming up. We had Tamla Man last year. I've had Marvin Sapp. I've had Fred Hammond, and the list goes on and on that we've had performing because it's free, and they would always do it downtown in a plaza that they redesigned. But this year they're taking it on the campus, what they call the campus, where the Hall of Fame is, and they're gonna do the concert there this year.
Yeah.
So you got to get creative in order to make things like this happen. It's just not gonna work itself. We need people and shows like y'all to help keep talking about HBC to educate people. I had a luncheon this morning. I mean, a breakfast this morning. I couldn't sleep last night because I hired a company to put this breakfast together, these 2 young ladies, and they said that we can do it, we can do it. I was scared to death, man, because I felt like they was qualified to do it, but with me not having a hands-on on it, but what they did, we invited all of my corporate sponsors that was involved with me this past year, the corporate sponsors that we're trying to get this year, and future corporate sponsors. So I had the city officials, I had the county commissioner, I had my pastor Freddie Haynes, I had Grambling PV alumni. I fed them all breakfast. We went to a black restaurant downtown Dallas, Kitchen and Cocktails, and it was from 9 to 10:30 before they opened up. We had chicken and waffles and eggs and bacon and all kind of juices, and I mean, it was great. It cost us about $20,000. We gave everybody gift bags that left out of there, engraved 100-year anniversary items, and they had balloons all on the stage. We had the videos of the Cotton Bowl game and stuff during the event, and you got to be. And what Eddie Robinson always said, we can't take all the money home. We got to leave some money in the city. Other people got to make money. It ain't just about the promoter of the university. If the city ain't making money, it ain't gonna work.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Wash,
Go
let
ahead.
me ask you a question. I've been having this discussion with people. Talk about as you as a promoter, because there's this intrinsic word, economic impact for a city. Talk about what that means to you, but also what ticket sales. What is more important to you when you hear people saying, well, the economic impact of 15, 20, 30 million dollars versus your ticket sales? You as a promoter, what's the first thing are you more concerned about? Is it the ticket sales or this economic impact, which you kind of led into there?
Well, I'm more concerned about ticket sales because the economical impact that you hear is never going to be the true number. They're never going to tell you what the economical impact is for a Black event in any city, in any event. You'll never hear the right number that the city will give you because they're not going to want to say that I'm making bringing more money in the city that Texas OU. They're not going to do that. They told us our economic impact was $11 million for the weekend. We said $11 million. Ain't no sense in me arguing the point. Because I think I know how they come up in that. But then when you hear Texas OU, you hear a number like 25 million.
Well, do you get any, when they say that and say, do you get any benefit? Did the city say, okay, you brought $11 million in the city? Do they give you money? Do they say, hey, you brought 11 million? Do they even acknowledge that far as on a financial side? Or do they just pat you on the back and say, thank you for bringing $11 million into the city?
It depends on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you said earlier. You got to go know how to sit down as a businessman and negotiate a deal with them. The city of Dallas, they give me $500,000 cash. You know, I ain't gonna say they just dish out 500,000.
Right.
They write a check, and that's what they give to the game. You know, sports commission give me money. I got sponsors. You know, Chevy give us money. Pepsi give us money. Gin and Juice, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre was a sponsor of ours this past year. You know, I mean,
Jack
there's
Daniels.
Jack Daniels. I mean, we got a list of people that it goes on and on and
Now,
on.
is that
And
because you're bringing this amount of people? Because so I would assume that is because the game
no,
is successful itself.
no, no, it ain't because it's like we add them onto our marketing.
Hmm.
They get more exposure this way than they would if they go out and try to buy a commercial. You know, I mean, if they spend $50,000 and they all over Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, and their name is being heard, the product is being heard, they ain't gonna get $50,000 worth of advertising go all over Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. So they getting something out of it from us. It's got to be like you said, a win-win situation. Everybody got to win. Even when we sell our tickets in the city, Ticketmaster on a $40 ticket, Ticketmaster might tack on $10 for that ticket. We
Or
tell the
more.
outlet, I got Williams Chicken and Catfish Floyd and some other places that sell tickets, and I say, okay, y'all can put $4 on the ticket, you know, and y'all make $4. But now they drive up to their window. They don't have to get out the car. They can say, "Give me two tickets to the game and a box of chicken." You know. So now everybody they gonna make $4 and they don't have to cook nothing. They don't have to do nothing for that $4.
You
So
know,
Look, Rocky, wait,
I'm
wait,
hearing
Rocky, hold on,
no.
wait, wait,
I
wait,
was
wait,
just
Rocky,
gonna
wait,
mention. I was just gonna mention. I'm here in Waco, and he's been working with the same outlet, Floyd's Audio Capital, for probably 50 years. You know, they've had Floyd has passed on and went on to glory, but still, you can get a ticket to the State Fair Classic, not far from my house. And again, these are things that's been going on for years and years and years. This past year, you know, you didn't advertise with us, but you gave us a ticket pack where we were able to share with our listeners and we had ticket giveaways and stuff like that. But like I said, it was a great opportunity. You not only get the money, but you also spread the money around as well. Because I know the number of radio stations, even a radio station here in town that you did advertise with. They you bought a package with them.
What station I didn't advertise with? You done threw that out there.
No. It's KWBT.
Get on him, Al.
No. KWBT. You advertised with the hip hop station. And Roy Gillis, my partner, talked to you about it, and you explained why you did it and everything. But
you met him you met him last year on that Monday when we came out.
Right. And probably when I do something like that, I got a reason, because I got to keep the game young.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the alumni chapters, they gonna come, a graduate from one of these schools, they might come 4 out of the 5 years after they graduate. The longer they stay out of school, it becomes less. The older they get, it becomes less. So I got to get young people to keep coming to this event to buy tickets for this event. And that might have been just that year that I said, okay, we're gonna go the young route, for this event. Now, radio ain't doing, like I said earlier, newspapers not doing what they used to do. For we used to buy newspaper, black paper, white paper, whatever. They not doing the numbers. Radio not doing the numbers that they used to be. Now it's social media.
Digital is where it's at.
Digital is where it's at. You go somewhere, and I sit in these restaurants, and I look at these tables, and the kid is sitting there on their telephone. It could be a man and a woman, a male and a female, and both of them on their telephone looking and laughing at their telephone. They ain't even talking to themselves, So it's digital. today, and I'm in Shreveport right now. I bought digital, and I bought it for Waco and Killeen. You know, I sell 2,000 tickets on Killeen Army Base.
Mm.
You know, because those people come from all over the country. They hear about classic games, mixed marriages, and they want to see. They want somewhere to go outside of Killeen for that weekend. They can come to the fair. They can get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, leave at 12 midnight on $40.
Right.
See two concerts, a game, a halftime show, you know. I mean,
And a turkey leg.
yeah,
No, they
get the
can't.
turkey
They're
leg.
gonna have to come out their pocket for that turkey leg.
Yeah,
That
you gonna
turkey
have to
leg
come
is
out.
$20 now, by the way. And not if you got them for $15 up in your box suite, I'm gonna come up there and buy them next time. You
Well,
have 'em.
I hadn't paid for one in so long, but you know what I do? I take my ice chest to Smokey John's barbecue during the course of the fair, and I tell him, I said, look, fill this ice chest up with turkey legs, and I want y'all to cook them longer than what you cook them at the fair. I want them to be tender, where I can just shake the bone like this, and the meat can fall off of it, where you can bite into it, and it just melt in your mouth. I don't want it to be, struggling like you see them at the fair, and that's what I do.
You got the
You know,
cheat code then. You got the
yeah,
cheat code.
yeah. So that's Coach. And one year, I put in the commercial. I said, Coach Robinson, we need to run the turkey leg. I mean the wishbone. I put that in the commercial. You know, he laughed about it. You gotta be creative in marketing wise. That's
No,
why y'all have different guests on for y'all show. Because that's why all three of y'all are different. If
Yeah.
y'all all thought the same thing, well, nobody be listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Watts, let me ask you a question. One of the things that a lot of people, and this is what happened with the Atlanta Classic. So it sounds like with Grambling and Prairie View, so their expense as far as them bringing the team, bringing the band, that's part of your bottom line, and then you net profit after that. That's how you kind of do those guys, or they have to take their money and then use that money to pay for the band and the school and the football team to
Yeah,
get
they
there.
take. You can do it that way, and we used to do it that way when we started out, but the schools stopped that. In other words, Grambling said that, look, we pay our band to come to this game. It's in their budget. The band have a separate budget to travel on X amount of games. And then Prairie View said, well, we don't do it that way. The 25,000 or whatever it was at that time, we were paying each school. So they just said, hey, we're gonna cut this out. We'll pay our own band, and I don't get into, if they say they need 25,000, if they say they need $100,000, it don't matter to me, because it's a percentage deal anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so that
Coach,
so you allow them. So basically, like you say, it's a percentage deal. So if they increase the expenses, it comes off the part
yeah, they
of
they
the.
taking home less money.
Okay.
I mean, it's common sense, you know.
Y'all are true partners in the deal. It sounds like to me, you had this, because I'm an entertainment business enthusiast interest. Seems like you had the same deal that Golden Boy kind of had with Floyd Mayweather's promotion company. They would do the physical promotions for a percentage of the overall revenue, rather
That's right.
than them manage the entire project and take on all of the expenses.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's Al Heyman that was over there with Floyd Mayweather, and so that's how that was designed. Because Al Heyman's he's a genius. I take my hat off for him. You know, I mean, out of all promoters, and you asked about that Mount Rushmore and all that, Al Heyman to me would be on top. Don King, everybody in their field. Don King would, and
Someone mentioned Butch Lewis. I'm not as familiar with Butch. I know he's promoted some fights, but I'm not as familiar with his work as a promoter.
yeah, Butch Lewis, he was a promoter, but he was kind of like a flamboyant
Hype
type
man is what it
promoter.
looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, he come out there with no shirt on, with a jacket, and and all that. So I mean, he was trying to market himself more so than the fights themselves.
And as we speak about that, Mr. Wash, you've always now. I was doing my research to kind of find out who you were, anything that I didn't know about you. You are really low key, even though you do some really big stuff. Individually, you play the background. You're not, you're not part of the event. You're faceless almost, in a sense, when it comes to these events that you've done. Why have you chose to be that way as a promoter and not be part of? Why have you chose to play the background rather than be part of the event, or your face being part of the most promotional package?
Because if I was out there and being up front, first thing people gonna say, he making all the money. He just like the rest of them promoters. I don't need no a limelight. My work speak for me, and what these schools take home. And I told them 3 years ago, I said, I'm gonna get y'all up to 500,000. I told them after they got this 528, I said, I'm gonna get y'all to 750 within 3 years apiece. And after that, I'm gonna get them to $1 million. I'm gonna get them there. And I don't think they ain't doing no great thing by taking no $1 million from Ohio State to go over there, or 900 to go over here and play one of these big schools. How you gonna take Grambling to play the #1 school in the country for $1 million? For that whooping they gonna take, and how many kids they gonna get hurt? Kids should be the first thing. You don't have the caliber of kids and the depth to go play no Ohio State. You going in there for the payday of $1 million? That is not the way I would want my kid to go out.
That's pimping, ain't it, Mr. Wash?
Hey, you said it, not me.
Here's one of the things that since you opened up that wound, Mr. Wash, about selling our kids that way. The problem also is that $1 million they get does not go straight to the football program. It goes to the general fund. And every year when you start a football program, the school loans the athletic program, $300,000-$400,000 to get it started and going. And to me, when if they're gonna do those type of games, that money to me needs to go directly, or at least half of it, directly to the football program or the basketball program. And if you do that 3 or 4 years in a row, then to me, the athletic department, or at least the two major sports, can start a season up on their feet instead of continue to borrow the money from the university. And that's kind of how it works.
Well, let me say this.
I think it's
that is not a good way of making it work.
Right.
And for example, I know for a fact, when Prairie View shut down their athletic program, their attendance of student body went down.
Right.
And a lot of these other schools, when they shut down athletics, their attendance drop off. Because if you ain't got athletics, sports in these schools, the kids are going somewhere else. It's an experience that these kids go to these schools for. It's for homecoming. What they gonna go there for? And it's just the kids ain't just thinking about an education. You got to think about the other things, and how you come back and what you learn, the culture you learn from these schools. So when you saying they fronting them the money, hell, when they shut down athletic, just like when they shut it down at Prairie View, I had to go find me a team. I had 2.5 months, Eddie Robinson and I, to try to find us a team. He got on the phone, I got on the phone. I ended up finding Elizabeth City. And the only person I knew that went to Elizabeth City was Jeffro Pugh. He played for the Cowboys. That's the only
Right.
person that I know that went to Elizabeth City. I got Jeffro Pugh. I said, Jeffro, I need you to come work by my side and help tell people who Elizabeth City is, you know. And he did. He did everything he could. And the next year, when Prairie View came back, Coach Robinson said, well, I still don't want to play them because they're not giving scholarships. It ain't fair. It ain't fair to the coach. It ain't fair to the kids. You know, let's let them sit out another year and go find us another team. That's when we got North Carolina A&T. We brought them in, and Eddie Robinson said, "We'll pay them. You know, if we come up short, we just come up short on our end. You
Yeah.
know, we'll pay them. You know, just get the team out."
I
We did.
just think that every HBCU leads to have 2 to 3 classics or 2 to 3 fundraisers, and if they do play money games, that at least let some of that money goes to the athletic department, and where they keep
I
it
think all
and
of them should
build
get
up
the
the
athletic.
pot. Yeah, to keep up the pot.
Mr. Wash, I'll say this before we get to our first off, Mr. Wash, do you mind taking a couple calls? Because we had some people that have called in. I'm sure they want to talk to you and not me.
As long as they not like my man from Florida A&M sitting up there.
Hey man, listen. We brag
Rocky,
different. Hey, Al, let me Al. You know what? Let me tell you what's funny. I got a couple of texts. I'm doing you like Rocky do all my guests when they come in. So I had to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, like he does everybody that comes in for me. So I had to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, come on with some calls.
That usually is Rocky's situation, not the bishop. But go ahead, Rocky. If we got some, all right. Love that.
Caller, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hey, I'm a friend of Scott. He calls me Wick. Mr. Campbell and Mr. Cole and Rock. Thanks for letting me on.
They call you Witch.
Mr. Wash, Wake. W-A-K-E.
Oh, Wake. Okay.
That's what
Sorry,
Scott
sir.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wash, listen to the show, enjoying the things you're sharing. And I always talk to Scotty about events and marketing and whatever. And I worked in sports marketing myself. I was the event director, and I worked with the Southern Heritage Classic out of Memphis. And I managed Conference USA, SEC games, and what have you. So one issue I wanted to bring up, a lot of people don't know about, is that some cities, and I know this occurred in Memphis, when Jackson State, Tennessee State played. When they played, people were saying that, there wasn't enough money on the table and whatever. That's why Jackson State stepped down or whatever. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of corporate support comes to the schools because they play in the game. It may not be part of the contract they signed to play in that game, but they do support the schools. For example, FedEx. FedEx contributes money to Jackson State and Tennessee State because they use it as a recruitment thing. But one reason why they do give a certain amount of money because they were coming into that classic. When both of those schools, when Jackson State bowed out, FedEx pulled back some of this quote-unquote monies because they quit playing that game. A lot of people don't know about that corporate support in regards to recruiting and being part of that game that's outside of the contract. As far as your classic or any other classic, do you know of any other classics that have that same impact, that schools generate corporate support because they play in that game? Or any classic that provides economic impact to a city?
Well, I think all of the sponsors that support these classic games, they doing it for a reason. They're not doing it because of goodwill that they trying to help kids. HBCUs, they are doing that too, but I think it's goodwill in every sense. You know, the FedEx, black people ship stuff FedEx. You know, black people buy Chevys, black people buy Fords, black people buy Pilgrim's chickens, and
State Farm Insurance.
And State Farm Insurance. So I think they I'm not gonna say they owe it to us to do it, but they should have done it years ago. And I've been blessed with my corporate sponsors. I communicate with them. if it ain't a win-win situation with them, they can buy out, and I'd be happy to work the deal out that they get their money back. If I don't do what I say I'm gonna do, you know, I mean, you got to be loyal. It ain't just a win-win, and that's what the schools don't understand. You got to spend money for these corporate sponsors. You got 60 seconds to do a radio spot. Sometimes I have to cut 2 different spots to split the commercials up to get them all on a radio spot, you know, because they want their name associated with a product that can keep the people coming in their door to spend money with them. So,
And that runs your expenses up.
yeah.
And now, Al, you at one time, because you know I've been there the last 20 probably, it was called the Southwestern Classic.
Southwest Airline Classic.
Airline, because I ended up winning a ticket there. Thank God for that. But and so I guess it got bigger, or you kind of moved away from a title sponsor, or is the state
no. What happened with that? Southwest called me in, and I went to their corporate headquarters, and they said, Mr. Wash, it's not nothing you've done negative. We love participating with this game, but we did some things that we wasn't ready for. And on the West Coast, they were the #1 airlines on the West Coast. Now other airlines start coming in there and marketing and doing things. Well, they didn't have no marketing dollars for the West Coast because they was a big cheese out there for many, many years. So anybody that wasn't under contract, they lived out their contract with me, Tom Joiners, and everybody else. They lived out their contract. They said, we might be back now. I have a very good working relationship with Southwest, and they're a good airline, but you know, they said we got to come up with that money, and we got to come up with it somewhere. So it wasn't just our game. It was, they cut out Tom Joyner's sponsorship. They cut out a lot of other sponsorship, not just black, white, and everything. I took that as a good relationship between me and Southwest,
Okay.
and I think I'm gonna get Southwest Airline back on board.
You remember that reminds me. You remember the year that you brought out Barack Obama at halftime? That guy was a ringer for Obama, man. You remember that, Coach Cole?
Man, that was crazy. Hey, you almost damn near walked out to the edge of the stadium where they were sitting and flipped over because everybody was looking for.
And all I was saying when it happened, I said, please don't have these people run out here on this field.
Oh man, that was crazy.
I tell you another good time too we had.
Hey Rocky, can I say something before I go, Rocky?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Oh yeah, we do. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Wash, you mentioned about radio being dead and whatever. I agree with you because I work radio and I work newspaper. What I do now when I help promote events,
dead now.
Not the same impact.
Yes,
not the same impact. So one thing I do when I help promote events is that I use Spotify. I advertise on Spotify. I don't know if that's in your periphery. You mentioned digital. Spotify is what I go to as digital, i.e. digital radio. So I just wanted to share that.
All right, thank you for that. And I get my staff, I'm still old school, but I get my staff to do a little bit more research on that.
And iHeart as well. iHeart as well. So your digital marketer should be able to handle that for sure.
So,
all right,
thanks for letting me talk.
And that reminds us, we got another caller. May as well get him in right now. Caller, with the last 4 of 9085, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from?
Rocky.
Hey, yeah, man. You're gonna have to turn your background down and talk to us on the phone. You can't be talking to your TV.
That'll work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That'll work. I'm talking right now. I want to ask Mr. Walsh the difference between his market in Dallas and what he perceived the market to be in Miami. when it comes to African American attendance. And then I'd like to ask Mr. Walsh, what generates more profit for him? The $500,000 that the city kicks in and those other corporate sponsors, or just the pure amount that he makes from the ticket sales minus what it costs to rent the stadium and the security and all of those expenses that comes with renting the stadium? In other words, would he make the same profit if he didn't have that big kick in from the city and those other sponsors? Because I don't think Mr. Campbell likes to question the fair way when he asked him how important was seats in the butts in the seats versus tourism and people coming to town.
You muted, Campbell.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Mr. Walsh answer that, and I'm gonna follow up with that because I'm gonna give you the background on that, Mr. Walsh.
It was nice tonight, ain't it, Rocky?
Yeah.
To answer that question, you know, the sponsorship dollars is what made those dollars to the school make over $500,000 a piece. The school's ticket sales and the public ticket sales has been going down. We're not selling the tickets like we were selling when we've done I've done as many as 60-some thousand people. You know, I haven't done that in a while. But you know, and the expenses they are great, but the city and they realize, see, I'm in the state fair. The state fair controls everything on that fairground. They pay the city one big check. So I don't go to the city of Dallas to rent the stadium. It's their stadium, but I go to the state fair, and I don't pay no rent. You know, I got a lot of things, a lot of perks because of what I'm doing. You got to look at, if we bring 50,000 people in that fairground and everybody spend $50, and that's minimum. We're already talking about turkey leg going to $20. Everybody spend $50. That's $2.5 million. Why would they charge me $125,000 or $200,000 not to rent the building when they making $2.5 million? These are the things that, as a promoter, that I know and I deal with, and I know what they're doing for Texas OU, you know, that the university don't know, and they shouldn't be in the game of promotion.
So, Mr. Wash, I want you to explain something too. The $500,000 that you get from the city, that's to absorb the expenses of running the entire operation. It's not money that they're giving to you.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I just wanted them to.
I don't want to be like they did Marvin Sapp. And Marvin Sapp said, close the door. Close the door. You know, they asked him to take up an offering like he got that money, and that tape is 2 years old. You know, if anybody went to church, I'd have been to church where the pastor told me one time, he said, I want $50 line, I want $100 line, I want $250 line, Al Wash, I want you in the $1,000 line. You know.
Hey, Mr. Wash, let me clear up something, because that question stemmed from, and the reason why I asked, and you actually kind of answered it about the schools, like you said, you had Southern and you had another game and it kind of didn't work, and you saw that Grambling and Prairie View work. This stemmed from at the Orange Blossom Classic. That classic was originally a Florida A&M Classic. They switched it out. Florida A&M didn't come back a certain year, as in last year. So they brought North Carolina Central and they brought Alabama A&M. The ticket sales went down from 25,000 to 10,000.
Alabama State, right?
Alabama State.
Yeah.
Alabama State, I'm sorry, and North Carolina Central.
Yeah.
So they brought Florida A&M back. And what I have explained to people, one of the main reasons why all that's good, you still want to make sure that you have ticket sales, because to your point about sponsors, if there's nobody in the game, the sponsors are not going to sponsor. So
it's a double-edged sword. You know, you got to have the attendance there to make the sponsor have interest to put dollars into the event also. So yeah, it's a double. You're right.
So that's what I was trying to explain. You can't just say economic, and that was the question about economic impact. The economic impact does not directly, it's an intrinsic number. That's not something that goes to your bottom line. That's something that, like you say, they don't even give it the correct number. The things that you're talking about is you made a package that's compelling for sponsors and for people to come. So the argument was, why did Florida A&M come back and why they replaced them? And I said, because simply they're bringing butts in the seats, and that's going to allow people, the sponsors, and make more money. So that's really where that question stems from.
And Campbell, in that situation, is Florida A&M a partner in the event, or they paid a flat fee?
No, they paid a flat fee. They paid a flat. The only partnership we have, like when Mr. Walsh is like what we have the Florida Classic with us and Bethune-Cookman with the Florida Classic.
Al, and again, piggybacking off that, how much do teams does who you got in these classics? I know you've locked in now to Grambling and a Prairie View. Does teams matter in these classics? And if they don't matter, then you got to ask for not, like you say, you're taking over the Shreveport Classic, that you don't need 1 year. You're going to need 3 years to build it up. Does two good teams like a Florida A&M and a North Carolina Central who's border each other would be a great match for the Orange City Classic and helping you promote that if you were the promoter of that game?
Now, to me, I need teams. First thing I look at is the alumni chapter. How many alumni members do you have in a chapter of a school? If you tell me there's no alumni chapter of North Carolina State in Florida, or wherever you might be, I wouldn't dare try to bring them in there.
Thank you.
Langston don't have alumni chapter in Shreveport, but Langston is in a driving distance to where the expenses aren't as great as them bringing somebody from North Carolina to Shreveport to play.
Right.
You know, Prairie View played, I think, Southern here. Prairie View don't have no chapter in Shreveport, you know, but Grambling has a chapter, and the Grambling probably have more alumni in this city than any chapter. Take all the black chapters and add them up. Grambling can outnumber them. Just like in Dallas, Prairie View got more graduates in Dallas than you took all the black institutions and add them up. And Prairie View outnumber them 4-1.
Yeah.
They might not be an active alumni member, but trust me, we got a lot of graduates from Prairie View because years ago, that was the only place that we could go to college at a black institution was Prairie View. All your high school coaches and teachers and stuff back in the old days, that's where they went to, Prairie View, then Texas Southern, you know, then the Paul Quinns. And, you know, my game in Dallas was started with Langston and Wiley years ago. It wasn't no Prairie View and Grambling. You know, we chose to make it happen like this because of knowing what the makeup of the city was.
Mr. Wash, let me ask you this right quick. I know Coach want to get in here. Even that game, I guess what Campbell is asking, I want to ask you a context question. Would the game be a better game if a school like UAPB played in the game rather than a smaller school like Langston?
Oh, no doubt about it. When we had first, I started out this classic game and the same thing happened in Houston with Texas Southern and Prairie View. I started the classic game here in Shreveport, and Eddie Robinson said, we're going to play Alcorn in Shreveport. And they cut a deal for Alcorn to come to Shreveport every year. We were drawing very well. Then Alcorn built a new stadium, and where Eddie Robinson was splitting the money with Alcorn. Then when Alcorn built a new stadium, they said, well, we want you to come to our stadium and open up our stadium, you know. And Alcorn came to Grambling to open up their stadium. I don't know who was first. I think Grambling built their stadium before Alcorn. And Eddie Robinson still split the gate on campus with Alcorn. So when Grambling was time for Grambling to come to Alcorn, they didn't want to split the gate. They said it's a conference game. We don't have to pay you nothing.
That's what happened to the Space City Classic with us.
Eddie Robinson got pissed off, He said, well, hell, we split the money with you when you came to our campus. We didn't have to pay you nothing. But everybody think Grambling was getting slicker than Eddie Robinson was a slickster and all this. Well, Eddie Robinson was the marquee, Eddie Robinson, Marino Castle, Gunslinger. They know how to market them, the
Man,
schools.
that was my question, Al, is, and now these days we into celebrity coaches, getting celebrity coaches. How much do a coach, does his celebrity status makes people watch, or his demeanor and how he handles himself makes people come? Because I know, I grew up watching Eddie Robinson and Marino Cassim and them cats, and when they go into these arenas or to these talk shows, man, it goes from a comedy show to a political show. I mean, they put on a show. The coaches. That's the way I learned HBCUs, by the coaches. How much does that help you as well promote the game?
Well, it would definitely help me tremendous if they knew how to do that and what it takes to market that. But if you go get a pro football player to come in and he ain't never ever been at an HBCU school, he don't know what it's like. He don't know. Yeah, he's black. He's been around black people. But if he'd been over there at Ohio State, I'm not picking on nobody now. I said Ohio State, but I don't mean anything.
But I'm a Buckeye, so go ahead. You all right? You got a Buckeye in the show.
But the thing is, he don't know the tradition. All he knows is that he's coming to try to win games. You got to know the tradition of a HBCU school in order to be respected and be able to draw people. Now that's my feeling. Now I didn't go to a HBCU school. I went to Bland Junior College and I went to UT at Martin, and that was the biggest mistake that I regret today, that I did not go to a HBCU school, because I see these people. I see at Prairie View, they have 50,000 people at their homecoming. I go every year just to see it and feel it and be around it, And I ain't been to UT Martin and I don't know when.
If I have my sword, I'll swear you in as HBCU honorary member.
Well, I done been around them enough and promoted enough of their game.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. One of our guests wanted to say, please ask him, in a negotiation with HBCUs, is it telling the inexperience or poor business acumen observation? What is I don't know if we're putting you on the spot, but you've dealt with a lot of them. So
look, you don't put me on the spot at all. Like my mother said, I'm 72 years old.
My name is James Jr., and I won $500 on the lunch money for keeping up with the Jonas Bracket Challenge.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.